This is for the benefit of some of the orgs. I think there are 2 or so that won't be able to join us today. So we want everybody to know who's here and who's in the cohort. Thank you. I'm Mark Lomax, for those I don't know, and it's a pleasure to have you all here with us this summer. We are excited to host you as host sites for the Summer Fellowship Program, and we're really excited to see all the good work you and your fellows do. I have been running the program, I guess now for 5 years. I inherited it from Dan Sharp, who's now our VP of Community Research and Grants Management. I am director of, what is it? It's just changed. Arts and Generational Giving, which basically means I handle grants from kids to old folks like me. All this gray coming up. It's pandemic gray. I wasn't like this in 2020. Feels like it's been 6 years in the last 2.5 or 3. I'm happy to have my colleague Becca Segal here with us. She's our basically primary technical point of contact. And if there are any issues with the fellows themselves as you're managing things, I will be the primary point of contact for that. Today, we are going to go through a quick PowerPoint that just walks through some quick tips to help with your planning. You hopefully have accessed the packet, which was attached to the invitation. It's a PDF that also has some things to help management-wise and think through how the summer can flow and go. And then we want to answer any and all questions. But first, we want to know who everyone is. So we'll start with introductions, name, organization, mission, and your project. So I'll start with Kim Goodman, because you're right next to me on my screen.
Hello, I am Kim Goodman, and I work for the McConnell Arts Center, and we are a multidisciplinary arts center where we have dance, theater, visual art, and all of the above. And we're thrilled to have a fellow. We've had a couple in the past. I haven't been here during that time, but at Jazz Arts Group, we hosted several fellows, and this is the cream of the crop, the people that come our way. So thank you.
And Kim, if you wouldn't mind popcorning, just choose somebody.
How about Rita?
Hey, I'm Rita Hayter. I'm a volunteer with Simply Living, and I oversee the interns, but I'm going to defer to Kathy or Chuck, also with Simply Living, to give the Simply Living story. You don't need to hear it 3 times.
Okay, this is Chuck Lind, and I'm board chair right now of the Simply Living group. We're all about community education for sustainable living. We've been around for 30 years. I'm retired from Ohio State, and we've had interns before. We're very excited about the new interns that will be coming on board soon. Thank you. I'll pick Carla.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carla. I'm the manager of the School and Teacher Support Department here, Ohio History Connection, the former Ohio Historical Society. Our mission is to spark discovery of Ohio stories. And we are very excited about the fellowship because we're going to be able to provide some education programming for summer camps this summer. So that's going to be really cool.
And Carla, you can just popcorn it to someone else.
Sure. Let's go to Amanda.
We can't hear you, Amanda. You came off mute. I don't know what's up.
Still can't hear.
Okay, Amanda, so I'm going to take you off the hook for a moment. I'm going to pass the ball to Josie while you figure it out yourself.
Yeah, and Amanda, if you wouldn't mind just putting it in the chat, that way we can see it. Technical issues are technical issues. You know, it's all great when it works.
Okay, I'm Josie Gresh, program program manager at Cultivate. And this is Kamara Willoughby, and she is our executive director. So I'll pass it over to her.
Hi, I'm Kamara Willoughby. This will be our first intern. That's our first time doing this program. So we're excited to have an intern join us and help us with our summer projects and programs we have.
You can popcorn it to somebody else on the screen.
I'm going to popcorn it to
Feel like a kid in a class.
I'm Sarah.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. So my name's Sarah Jorgensen. I'm the operations manager at Seeds of Carey. So our mission is we engage children ages 2 to 12 through a variety of service, social action, and community building experiences. So our goal is to empower kids to create a kinder community. So this is the first time we have a fellow. We're super excited. And our fellow is going to be collaborating with a couple other staff members and helping us with some summer camp educational programming that we're doing through our Kindest Core program. And so they're going to be going around to different summer camps with 2 of our other instructors. So yeah, we're really excited to be participating. I will pass it off to Pamela. Have you gone? Pamela.
No, I have not yet. Thank you. I'm Pamela Krieber. I'm the Associate Director at Communities and Schools of Ohio. We provide full-time staff in schools to high-need schools around the state to support students, removing non-academic barriers to learning, trying to work with them for academic, attendance, behavioral and social emotional supports and services, and making progress in those areas. So I am not sure if this is our first time. I've been with CIS about 2 years. I don't know if it's our first fellow or not. It's my first. No, it's not. Okay, thank you, Mark. First since I've been here, which has really been 2 years of COVID. So we originally were planning on bringing a fellow in to work with us to plan some parent and family engagement activities toward the end of summer in preparation for what we hope is going to be an even more normal school year in 22-23. And that is still a main objective. We have also been asked to provide some enrichment for some summer programming for a couple of districts. And so that's going to be the early part of the summer, and then the family and parent engagement activities toward the end of the summer. We're very excited. Diane, have you gone yet?
I have not, thank you. I'm Diane Linton. I am the interim executive director of the Riverview International Center. This is our 7th year being open, and we empower our new American neighbors who've newly arrived to the United States, Columbus specifically, by supporting individuals, strengthening families, and nurturing community. And so our summer fellow, our program is to just keep kids engaged over the summer through, we start out with a summer reading program, and then the second half is more just activities, especially related to math and science, and some fun too, and some field trips for our summer program for our new American immigrants and refugees who are there. We are located just south of Riverside Hospital, just north of University Village. This is our first year being part of the summer fellow program. Unfortunately, our really great summer fellow got another job and dropped out. So we are actively recruiting. If you know of anybody who might fit, we would love to have somebody here. So I'm here in faith and hope and optimism that we still will find somebody in time. Sorry, I just was ready for this too. What about Carrie Allen Hogan?
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see faces today. I'm Carrie Allen Hogan. I am the Director of Advancement at Ethiopian Tewahedo Social Services. We serve over 60 cultures to help individuals from various countries gain self-sufficiency and become active members of American society. We have lots of programs that work with adults and children, as well as cultural empowerment and training. I'm really looking forward to working with our summer fellow. I had the opportunity to do it before we all went home and didn't return. And we're going to focus this year on two things. The Youth Summit, which is our celebration after our 8-week summer camp for the kids who participated. And also, as we begin to focus much more on a live Evening of Promise and auction this year. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I truly enjoyed the friendship and the collegial atmosphere that we were able to create with our previous fellows. So I'm sure that that will happen again. So thank you.
Carrie, you can popcorn it to the next
Sorry.
person.
Michelle?
Hi, I'm Michelle Tavener from the McConnell Arts Center. I know Kim gave a little bit of details about that, but I'll add that this is my first time working with the fellow, and our plan is to have our intern work with our summer camps actually, and be our lead contact and kind of help to oversee those this summer, amongst the many other things, but that'll be a focal point. So looking forward to it. And how about Kathy, have you gone yet?
Hi, I'm Kathy Cowan-Becker with Simply Living, and you heard a little bit about what Simply Living does from Chuck. I'll let you know about our Summer Fellows project, and I think this is the first time we've had a Summer Fellow through the Columbus Foundation, and we're very grateful for that. Simply Living's had a long time dream to build an online, searchable, sustainable business directory of businesses in Central Ohio that are both local and either help people become more sustainable or they have sustainable internal business practices. So we've talked about that a lot, but we didn't have somebody to actually do it, and now we do. So we have the website, the shell of the website is ready to go. And we have a lot of, like our own members and a couple of lists that we're going to go through and pick out which ones are both local and sustainable. And then our fellow will help us build that out. And we hope to have a website, a searchable website with hundreds of businesses by the end of the summer that people can look up and see where they want to go shopping and support our local economy. And I'm not sure who all hasn't gone yet. Julianne?
Hi, everybody. Julianne Garrett, I'm the Chief Advancement Officer at Boys and Girls Club of Central Ohio. And we are having some Wi-Fi issues, so I switched to my phone and didn't realize that my screen was capturing more than it was before. So I'm pumping and multitasking now. Apologies to anyone that might have caught that. But anyway, our mission at Boys and Girls Clubs is to enable children to reach their full potential. And we have a lot more capacity to serve kids. And so our project is, using social media to raise awareness as well as to have a 2022 modern recruitment campaign. We don't leverage what social media could allow us to do as in a way that I think is the most efficient. So our fellow is going to be looking at TikTok channels, which is beyond my capabilities, as well as Facebook, and really trying to get more people to know about our program, but most specifically families and caregivers who need affordable, reliable after school and summer care for their kids. And Mark, I think you've told me that we've had a fellow in the past, but it's the first one that, I've been here. So we're really excited about the opportunity.
Awesome. And Julianne, you can popcorn it to somebody else. We've got a few yet that haven't gone. Carrie, Robin.
Robin, I see you. Oh.
Good
morning, everyone. I'm Robin Davis with Seymour Institute. I'm the evaluation director here, and we fund organizations throughout the United States that help stabilize families, particularly families that are unstably housed. And I know that we've had a summer fellow before, but this will be my first experience and I'm very excited. They will be helping us with some qualitative research, doing some interviewing of our partners so that we can build a best practices report for our partners and for other organizations that are also engaged in family stability. And then, Andrea, have you gone?
I have not. Hi, everybody. I'm the executive director of Speak for the Unspoken, and our mission is saving special needs animals and giving them their best lives. We are a completely volunteer organization, so we're very excited about this first fellow, and this is the first time we've ever had one. And we're going to put her to work this summer, working on sort of consolidating all of our the aspects of our volunteer program. So our recruitment processes, our marketing, our training, our education around our volunteer programs. We have volunteers serving in a lot of different spaces, obviously, since we're all volunteer driven. And so we really need some help sorting that out and making that program as robust as possible. So we're very excited about this opportunity.
And last but certainly not least, I haven't finished my first 4 cups of coffee yet. Carrie at Local Matters.
Good morning, everybody. We're running a little low on space in the office this morning, so I apologize. I'm kind of out in the middle of everyone, so I'm going to keep this brief and a little quiet. Carrie Shaw, I'm Director of Operations at Local Matters. We work in healthy food education and access across Greater Columbus. We have had a fellow in the past and have really enjoyed that experience. And this year, our fellow will be working with our advocacy team that is doing a lot of work in mobilizing folks in neighborhoods to meet with their legislators and work on policy and advocacy work that affects them directly. So this fellow will be a part of that group. And thank you.
Great. Thank you all. It's, again, a pleasure to have you all here. Mission-wise, in terms of organizational focus, this is one of the more diverse groups of missions we've had in the fellowship program. As an artist, I always want to squeeze some arts orgs in there, and this is the first time we've had 2. And several folks mentioned that this was their first time, so we're really looking to diversify both mission and bodies with respect to the fellows themselves. And Diane mentioned some of the challenges that we've had placing fellows. This is the first year where we've had so many people say, oh, I either have a better option than $15 an hour for 400 hours, or I just don't want to do it. And I thought I did, or I'm going to Europe, so sorry. You know, it's been really interesting. And we thought with everything going on in the pandemic and all the challenges students were facing, that this would be a good year to expand the program. So we really expected to have 20 host sites and 20 fellows, and we're back down to our regular number of 16 because of all the challenges. So it's been really interesting. And so, in saying that, if you have the opportunity to have a conversation with your fellows about the why, and I'll do the same thing, and maybe we could kind of share tips that we got from these young people to help us better recruit and maintain folks once decisions have been made. We even upped their stipend from $12 to $15 an hour, thinking that would be great. And then we're getting outbid by folks. And it's like, it's an internship, it's not a job, you know? But hey, what do I know? You know what I mean? So now I'm gonna share my screen and walk through a PowerPoint to kind of really give you a sense of how we think about the fellowship, and hopefully these kind of tips that we've learned over the years will help. The real purpose of the fellowship for those who are new is several-fold in the sense that we want to help the young people have viable career exploration opportunities. We want to keep the talent here in Columbus and help stave brain drain. We want to attract some of the more talented folks that are coming out of all the local colleges and universities. We want to attract them to the nonprofit sector. And we want to build capacity for the organizations. And we also want to engage students more broadly to learn about the benefits of working in the nonprofit sector, especially now that we're hearing Gen Z and some of the younger millennials who are in grad school, they want to tie their economic mobility to value in the community, right? They want to have an impact and see some kind of social change. I'm a Gen Xer. We just wanted to make money, and I'm also a drummer, and my wife told me I had to get a real job, which is why I ended up going nonprofit. But these younger people, they really do want to have a social impact. And so I don't know a better way to do that than working in the nonprofit sector. And so what we've done is we've put together a slide deck that we share each year with some updates about hosting an effective summer fellowship program. One of the main things is to plan, right? So you have to think about the assumptions, your objective, how ready are you by that first Monday in June? What role really adds value to the fellows' experience and to your organization? Plan out, map the experience for the whole summer. Understanding that in nonprofits, I worked at Boys and Girls Clubs, I worked at Directions for Youth and Families and a few other nonprofits. Best laid plans, right? Things can happen and everything gets upset and overturned and you have to pivot very quickly. But being able to map as much of the summer experience as possible. And most importantly for the fellow, having an effective onboarding and orientation that might even take the whole first week to some extent or another to help them feel like they belong on the team, they're a member of the team, and that they are valued for the work that they're going to contribute to your respective missions that summer. All of these are very important, so we're going to go a little deeper in each of them. A little bit about the recruitment and selection program process. We begin recruiting. I've actually already been to Ohio State and Capital University talking about the summer fellowship program to students in various majors. At OSU, we talk to students in the nonprofit program, administration program, but I also teach at Ohio State. I teach in the music department, ethnomusicology. So I tell the students, I have 40 students in my class. I just graded all of the finals. Woohoo! It's a lot of work, but I tell them all about the fellowship program. I talk to the students in the Glenn School and the education school about the fellowship program, and I speak to music students across the city at Otterbein, Capital, and a lot of other places. I'll be at Otterbein again. I already have that on the books for September to talk about the fellowship program. So we not only send out emails to folks on our list, but we also are on the ground or on Zoom in classrooms, lifting up the good work that fellows are doing with our partner organizations and the opportunities there. Compensation and benefits, we had a question about that already, and it's always a question both from the fellows and the host sites. So if you haven't already, you will be receiving a check for $7,350. $6,350 of that is the fellowship stipend for the fellow themselves. The other $1,000 is to cover your administrative costs. The fellow is responsible for their own taxes, and in most cases, they are receiving a 1099, but that is completely up to you and how best that whole thing aligns with your organization, right? So if, oops, not there yet. So if it's easier for you to get them in your system and do all the tax stuff for them, feel free to do that. If it's easier to issue a 1099, do that as well. We will definitely have this conversation with the fellows, and I will let them know that our goal at the Columbus Foundation is for that administrative process to be as easy for your organizations as possible, right? So I can't dictate that. I don't dictate that. The goal is for you to be able to do that in a way that makes sense for you, all right? Organizational commitment. The worst thing about being an intern or a fellow is when you show up and people look at you as if you don't belong there because they didn't know that you were there in the first place. That happened to me when I interned at a bank, and that's why I'm in nonprofit, because none of the people at the bank knew me, and I didn't feel comfortable. So ensuring that everyone in your organization is aware that the fellow will be there and is kind of keyed in to welcome them and make them feel like a part of the team is really important. How do I go to this next? There we go. Key in all of this is really focusing on your macro objective, right? We know that there are micro tasks and things that we want fellows to have completed by the end of the 10-week term of the fellowship. But what is your organizational objective? You know, we have organizations that are looking to hire new talent. And so they use this as a test run, right? We have organizations that have, for any number of reasons, not been able to complete important tasks. And so this is an opportunity for them to kind of hand off semi-important tasks to the capable hands of a fellow while they take that 10 weeks to focus on some things that they needed to get to but had not been able to. Again, career exploration in general. You know, these fellows may not end up working for your organization, but we would be thrilled if they end up working in the nonprofit sector here in Columbus. Offers you some flexibility and cost-effective workforce. They come, is always interesting. The first 2 weeks, these young people are on fire about how they're going to change things and they're going to improve processes. And then the third week, they're like, well, we didn't know that everybody at the nonprofit had to work so hard. We didn't know that they wore all the different hats and they had to, you know, sometimes sweep the floors and make the phone calls and, you know, drop the kids off. As I worked at Boys and Girls Clubs, we did all of that, right? But they do have fresh eyes and they might be able to come in and offer some value in just looking at processes and saying, hey, this might be more effective and efficient. Like Julianne said, you know, we don't know TikTok necessarily, but they do, right? So they can offer some effective and efficient social media advice and process and things like that, right? The list goes on. So just be very clear about your macro goals and objectives for the fellowship, because that will help inform the micro goals as things go on. We do try to source some of the most talented people in our community and region, and they work quickly. And that list of tasks you give them at the beginning of the summer might get completed by week 4 or 5, right? So if you have your macro objective clear, then it helps, again, inform what happens next. Again, organizational readiness. These young people, you know, they're still in school or they've just gotten out of school. And so they're not quite used to flexibility, right? Their whole days for their whole lives up until now has been scheduled and organized for them by their school schedule or their parents or someone else, right? So being able to fully define their roles and responsibilities will be very, very helpful from day one. So that way they understand exactly what their role and responsibility is with some clarity in writing, and they're not asking or seeking, you know, clarity later when, you know, it was said to them and the work is there in front of them, but they're not sure where to go next, right? Making ready the workplace, ensuring that there's space and they're, even if somewhat virtual, they know how to get in touch with you, how to engage colleagues is important. Again, spreading the word, making sure everybody in the organization is up to date and aware and ready to welcome them day one. Prep the supporting cast. It's always helpful when these young people know that they have 2 or 3 people possible in the organization that they can reach out to when they have questions. I just lost my place in my page. There we go. Get excited. This is always fun to me. This is my favorite time of year. It also is the reason why I can't really take a summer vacation because I'm really engaged, but I grew up in the nonprofit world doing youth development work. And so I look forward to our bi-weekly professional development sessions and being engaged with the fellows and reading their Friday blogs to see how they're developing and supporting that development. So it's an exciting time for me, and it being an exciting time for you to help develop the next generation of nonprofit talent should be something that we all get excited about. And then always, because we need to be careful, what if any risks need to be managed, right? The onboarding process here is really important, helping them know and get up to speed as quickly as possible on any systems that you have them working in, things like that, to help mitigate risks, even as it relates to, media campaigns and fundraising and event planning, letting them know what language and the vernacular that is used in your organization, and even having a style guide. So if they're posting things that are consistent with the language and look of your organization is important, right? They might have all the best intentions and say the right things, but maybe in a different way. And then that creates, some confusion around your brand, things like that. I mean, that's not a huge risk, but it's one that you can mitigate just by having that conversation, right? Roles deserving of fellows. We call them fellows for a reason and not interns, right? So we want to make sure that they are giving highest and best value to your organization and are getting from your organization highest and best value, right? The way we retain this talent and recruit the talent to the nonprofit is by ensuring that highest and best value, I keep saying that because that's just the best way I can say it, it is given and returned, right? If they feel like they are really making an impact, then they feel good about that, and they'll consider nonprofit as a career option. If they feel like they're just kind of getting everybody coffee and filing papers, well, you can do that anywhere, right? There's nothing special about nonprofits for that. So we want to minimize menial tasks, appropriate mix of short and long-term projects, right? Again, these are high functioning students. Many of them have GPAs, as you've seen, of plus 3.5 in undergrad. And I can tell you that my undergrad cumulative GPA was not a 3.5. And neither was it in my last semester when I thought I was mature. Of course, in grad school, it was a 4.0, but I was a slacker in undergrad. But these kids are not slackers by any stretch of the imagination. They work quickly, they're very diligent. So having a mix of short and long-term projects will keep them engaged. Experiential learning. What we mean by this is put them in everything, right? If you have a board meeting, if you have fundraising or prospective donor meetings, if you have, any real deep nonprofit things going on this summer, let them be a bug on the wall and observe, right? Help them understand kind of the totality of what we do as nonprofits to keep the work going, keep the missions going, and supporting the people that we serve. And it's okay to have too much work. It's okay to have too much work. They are here to learn, they are here to serve, and nobody ever takes work off our desks as nonprofits, right? In fact, we are often made to do a lot of work with very little resource. And so them understanding that it's not easy to be a nonprofit because there is so much work. A lot of the issues that we are engaging are missions that often feel like we're sweeping back the ocean, but we do it because we care about people and we care about our community. So them experiencing that heft and heaviness of work is okay and preferable in my experience. Balance of individual and collaborative assignments is always encouraged, right? We want them to feel like they're on a team, but we also want them to own outcomes. Challenging, meaningful value added, we've discussed that. Soft skill development, these kids are students. Some of them have had jobs, but many of them have not. So they must learn how to send an appropriate formal email. They've got to learn how to problem solve and be a part of the team and not just want to be heard and listen to speak instead of listen to understand, right? all of those things will make them better professionals and valuable assets to our community moving forward. Any questions so far?
Mark, this is fantastic, and I'm already thinking ahead. Do you have plans for us to meet, for this group to meet at the end of the program?
Yes, Kim.
Yay! I'm jumping ahead, but I'm just so excited to be in this collaborative space, you know.
Yes, so we typically do not have a meeting to kind of debrief. If that's something that's of value to this group, we can definitely schedule that. But we do have a meeting scheduled at the very end, the last day of the fellowship, where the fellows make their Pecha Kucha presentations. And if we wanted to, we could, depending on if we're in person or virtual, we could schedule extra time either at the beginning or end to debrief if that's desirable. But we don't have a formal last meeting other than that event. Yes, Rita.
Did I hear you mention something about a Friday blog or?
Yes, so each of the fellows are responsible for a weekly blog that they will post, and we'll send out that link to you. That's again, developing that formal writing and representing the brand that they're affiliated with and their own brand kind of study. And they do a great job. They post pictures. They have to write at least 300 words every week. And so that's how I am able to track their weekly progress. And so it's kind of an accountability measure for them, so I can bring up things or topics of interest, or tap somebody to share something that I thought would help the growth of the whole group in our bi-weekly professional development sessions, which I'll talk about here in a little bit.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark, can you just real quick review whether or not that's the blog is something that the host organizations need to like remind the fellow of or be on top of in any way, or if that's through the Columbus Foundation?
No, that's me on the first day of the fellowship saying, you are responsible for this. They'll get a packet that has all of their macro fellowship responsibilities, and that will be in that. So that's something that we will manage.
Hey, Mark, this is Carrie. A couple things. One is ETSS has a requirement for a background check for anyone who's going to be working with any of the kids, et cetera. Is that something you want to set up as soon as possible, or is that something you guys already do?
We did run a cursory background check, but I'm not certain that it's as in-depth as the one ETSS does. And so many times organizations will run a secondary background check. And if there are costs associated with that, we ask that you use part of that $1,000 administration fee to cover that cost.
Great. My other quick question is, we are still virtual. We are still remote. And so it's really interesting because I have 2 staff members that I've never worked in the office with, but have worked with for 2 years remotely. So we will be doing that quite a lot with the fellow. We do try to get together a little bit, but there's no guarantee on that. What I need to provide to that person so they have the equipment they need at home? Do I need to give them a computer, a printer? Is there any requirement of that, or what should I be planning?
So we ask that if you are in person, that they have a dedicated space and all the equipment they need to do the work that you're asking them to do. And the same is true if they're virtual. So not knowing what the technological needs are of your particular fellow, that's a conversation that can be had prior to the first day. So all of those things are in place.
All right. Thanks so much.
We did have several fellows that were virtual last year, and it went off without a hitch. We did find that the organizations that had higher touch points planned throughout the week via Zoom or Teams, God forbid, that they had more success and the fellow felt more engaged as a result. So if you are going to be virtual, that's fine. Please just plan, several touch points throughout the week and an open line of communication that allows the fellow to feel engaged and supported.
Yeah, I think I meet with my staff like 6 times a day, so I'm sure tucked into it.
For sure. Any other questions so far? Rita, is your hand still up or? Oh, okay, okay, awesome. So mapping the experience, it's helpful both for accountability and clarity to just have a calendar for the whole summer, even if it's broken down week by week, right? It would highlight key deliverables and milestones, have some time scheduled for feedback and review. That feedback is really important in the young professionals' development, right? So the more they can hear from you, both criticism and constructive criticism and, hey, you know, this is actually great, right? They grow and it really helps them feel attached and like they're gaining some value from this experience. So please don't refrain from being constructively critical of their work and their presentation and their presence in the space. Because this may be their first job, this may be their first experience outside of a setting that is catering to them and their demographic, right? They might have worked on campus, but you expect kids on campuses to look certain ways, but when you come into a more formal workspace, you know, that's going to change. And so we want to make sure they know that. Again, invite them to every meeting you can. All of that will help them have a holistic perspective of the important work that you do and provide any development opportunities. We do have a bi-weekly professional development session. It will be on Wednesdays, and we'll send out a survey, engage their interest, and we will source nonprofit leaders from the community to come and speak to those interests. So the first day, it's a half day with you, half day with us. So first thing in the morning, they will either be at the Columbus Foundation or we'll be on Zoom, and we will run through a lot of the expectations and answer any questions and get their headshots and things like that together. And they will be with you after lunch by 1 o'clock. And then starting the next week, that second Wednesday, they will be with us half day bi-weekly on Wednesdays for professional development. The first hour is a check-in. The second hour is with the nonprofit professionals who will come in and share their experience and answer questions. The third hour is a wrap-up, sometimes an activity, things like that, and conversations about leadership. What does it mean to be a servant leader? Things like that we do throughout the summer. So any professional and personal development opportunities you have that you can offer during the summer would be helpful. And then this includes company outings and community connections, right? Fellows will come again with inputs without context, and I urge them on that first day to keep their ideas to themselves until they understand the mission, vision, and values of their host sites. And then they will have context that will either help them align their thoughts or let them know that their thoughts really didn't matter in the first place because they're coming in code, right? And so we want them to offer their ideas, absolutely, but offer them in a context that's helpful, right? And then plan the summer wrap up. It's always great to celebrate them because they really do work hard this summer, and we plan 3 events throughout the summer to help them kind of woosah and gel as a cohort. We take them to a soccer game or a baseball game. We'll take them out to dinner, and we take them to a concert at the Commons to hang out. So anything that you can do to celebrate them and their time there would be great toward the end of the summer as well. Onboarding and orientation during that first week, we've seen them last from 1 day to a whole week. And for organizations that are running summer programs that might not start that week, this is a great time to really help them dive into mission, vision, and values and understanding, you know, the what, why, and how of your organization. Leveraging existing programs, I was just thinking, you know, like tour. I remember when we had a fellow at the Boys and Girls Clubs when I worked there. You know, we took them to each building. We got them to see, you know, how the programming is the same across the organization, but facilitated differently at each site based on the kids and their desires, because it's a kid-focused program. So helping them understand how your existing programs operate so that they can kind of slide in and align is really helpful. Overview, again, mission, visions, values, introductions to people, tour of the facilities, helping them really feel part of the team by taking them to lunch or coffee, you know, and always keeping the calendar goals, expectations at the forefront of the conversation, so everyone is very clear on the what's expected by the end of the summer is helpful, right? And in that first conversation, you know, there is a place on their application where we ask them about their expectations, and it's pretty generalized because they're not in it yet, right? So they're saying, hey, I want to network, or I want to, you know, learn and grow, or I want to contribute and add value and help improve, you know, this organization. Well, your organization might not need improvement in the way that they think, right? So asking them, you know, what their expectations, what they'd like to achieve personally and professional will help bring some of that into clarity and alignment. I'm checking the chat. The first, yes, thank you, Becca. Solid, okay. And then it's always good at the end, kind of to Kim's question about us having a debrief. I'm open to that. You know, what assumptions did you have at the beginning of the summer and how did they change at the end? Did your objective, again, maintain or sustain itself through the summer? Did it change? How ready was your organization really? Right? Do you feel like the role that you gave to the fellow was deserving of a fellow? Did the mapping of the experience help? And how effective was your onboarding orientation? All of these things help to prepare for the next fellowship opportunity. Eligibility to host fellows is biannual, every other year. And so whatever you learned this year and thinking about it over the next year then helps prepare for that next eligible year to improve the process. And we have had organizations that have consistently had fellows every other year. And we intend to keep cultivating that muscle memory while adding new orgs as we can, because those partnerships really help, and the orgs that do really well really do convert believers, right? These young people who think, I'm gonna go make $1 million on the stock market doing this, that, and this, and so, and then they realize there's something that's, money's important, yes, but there's something that's more important, and that's serving your community, right? We can make money, enough money to you know, live a little bit, but the real, and this is me talking, this is my perspective and what I share with them, you know, money is actually very important. You need to be able to eat and live and all this other kind of stuff. But what about the health, happiness, and wholeness of the community that you live in? And I think that value add is as important, if not more important. So we'll go through this very quickly. How to maintain performance management. That's that accountability piece, staying engaged. I'm a lot of words. I hear that a lot. Focus on the development, a successful conclusion, and then any questions you might have. We want to ensure that they are having not only a great time, but working hard and developing as individuals and professionals, right? So putting as much focus on them and their development as possible is very important. They're coming in fresh, baby eyes, right? And they might say, hey, but this way is better, but there might be a reason that you do what you do, the way you do it. And so helping them understand and leverage existing practices is important, because that's part of being on the team and adding value in a way that's best for the organization, right? Regular feedback, we should change millennial to Gen Z, but we're still kind of in the mix, in the middle right now. Their expectations are very, very interesting as it relates to feedback, because they always, in my experience over the last few years, want to hear the positive stuff, but you don't grow with just the positive feedback, right? So leading with, hey, you really did this well. I want to talk to you about this because I know since you did this well, that means you can do this well, and let's get you to parity on these two skill sets, right? Is very helpful. That constructive criticism is important, and frankly, they need to learn how to receive it. Right? Be objective, right? Support with data and examples. I tell them all the time, when I give feedback, it's not personal, right? Let's say this session starts at 9 a.m. You got here at 9:15, there was no email, right? I need an email. I need you to let me know that you're going to be late, and I need a reasonable explanation for why you're late. You know, because that's you holding yourself accountable and being responsible as a professional kind of things, right? It has nothing to do with whether or not I like them as a person. You know, it's always about supporting them in their growth and development, right? I would absolutely encourage multiple perspectives, but not at the beginning, right? That might be a mid-fellowship and end of fellowship type of check-in where you have the full 360 approach to feedback. Because they need to learn how to do their work, how to communicate effectively with you and their team. And that way the 360 actually provides value to everyone involved, right? Once they have some context. And that's what we're talking about, the mid and end of summer check-in. Once you have your plan, stick to it as much as possible. If things change, that's fine, I understand that, but be as clearly planful in your communication of those changes as possible, so there's no lack of, clarity for the fellows. Sometimes when they feel like things keep changing, I mean, we had an example a couple of years ago before the pandemic where some opportunities came with some unexpected donations, and there had to be a shift in this organization's work to meet the expectation of the donor, which aligned with their mission, but was nowhere on the radar when they were planning for their fellowship. And they really did need the extra capacity that was brought by the fellow to achieve the goal and get the other part of the money. It was a matched donation. And so they had a finite amount of time to raise the match to get the donation. And, they were throwing things at the wall, trying to figure out how to really plan and execute this quick turnaround for fundraising. And the fellow just had no context for why things would be the way they were. And so they kind of started to check out because they didn't have a clear path, right? And we got together, we worked with that fellow and explained to them how a lot of times we can't control what donor intent is, but because of the nature of fundraising in the nonprofit space, if things align with our mission, vision, and values, we have to then be responsive to take advantage of the opportunity. And we kind of walked them through the whole thought process. And at the end, they understood, right? They had no context. They didn't know what was what from what. And so being very clear in that communication and the planning and being clear when the plan changes is important, right? If it is a meeting, like a one-on-one or whatever, if it's on the calendar, make sure it happens. If that time has to change, communicate that, but make sure that touch point happens that week, right? I understand things happen, but we had one example where the direct supervisor of the fellow went on vacation. And while the vacation was planned, there was no plan for a touch point from another colleague within the organization. So for a week or a little more, the fellow felt all alone because they didn't know who they could reach out to if they needed support, when they needed support or needed help, right? So if there's a planned engagement, ensure that that engagement happens. If it changes, that's fine, but make sure those weekly touch points happen and that there is a redundancy in place so that if you or the direct support staff cannot have that touch point, there is someone else who can, right? We want to make sure that these young people are supported and engaged the whole 10 weeks. Share the wealth and stay connected means the wealth of information as things are going on, you know, the what, why, how of the work and the work itself, right? Make sure that they feel that they're connected. The work that they're doing is adding significant value to the mission itself, right? And being connected, I think someone said, Carrie said she touches points with her staff 6 times or so a day. Yes, they'll learn that muscle memory. They'll understand how to do their work and work around those touch points, but feeling like they're on the team and able to be engaged in all of those meetings and touch points is really important. And then be spontaneous, right? They're still young people, and fun is something that I still like to have, even if there's a grant deadline or I've got to read 100 grant proposals or whatever. I still like to have fun, and I'll go, you know, I'll wait, get some other things done, and I'll go, you know, have an adult beverage while I'm reading grants because that's what I do for fun, or, you know, whatever. So, you know, it might be out of the blue in the morning. You say, hey, can you meet for lunch today? Right? Instead of doing a Zoom conversation, we might have an in-person conversation over a meal, you know, and then I just want to, you know, engage you in person. Thank you so much for being here. You're doing great work. And then offer that constructive criticism, and then offer some more, you know, uplifting support and send them back to wherever they're going to do more great work, right? This is all important. Again, these are high performing individuals. They work quickly, diligently. They find efficient ways to do things. Having those macro objectives, those macro goals will help you keep them engaged. And when all else fails, personal development, professional development materials are always valid and valuable tasks, right? All of those things can be helpful. And if you need help figuring that out, I'm happy to support you there. Before we go to the next slide, so far, any questions, comments?
We had one just confirmation question that wondering whether or not the organizations need to provide fellows with a laptop.
If they don't, so the expectation is that you are to provide the fellow with everything they need to accomplish the tasks that they're assigned by your organization. If they were working in person and you would provide a laptop, we would hope that you can provide a laptop. If that is an issue, there's an organization called PCs for People that we can connect you with that can help provide devices. Given what I know about our fellows, I don't think that will be an issue unless you have security concerns. And then again, that is in the purview of your organization. But yes, they should have all of the tools they need to be successful in their work this summer. Cool. Again, professional personal development is really, really important. These are young people. They might not know a lot of people. So introducing them to folks, helping them understand why your organization does what it does, the way it does, and being open after they've had some experience to hearing back from them where there might be some efficiencies put in place and things like that. Really important to help them feel like they're not just gaining value, but offering value, right? And at the conclusion, again, celebrate them, right? Have that final exit interview, as it were, right? This is a time for them to, again, share their thoughts about how to improve processes or wrap up their projects and say, you know, here's some next steps going forward and things that I noticed and might not have had time to get to, but if you do these things, it'll make it even better kind of conversation, right? All your administrative steps with respect to anything that you do when folks leave beyond exit interviews, and make sure that all the accomplishments are called out, right? Not just celebrated, but, you know, we are so grateful you did this, you did that, you did this, you helped us, you know, we hope that we helped you have a great experience kind of conversations are all very important. Right. So that's just a review. Any other questions, comments, concerns, criticisms? I'll stop sharing.
This is Sarah. I just have one question. So the biweekly professional development opportunities for those required, so they will be with you guys every other Wednesday throughout the 10 weeks?
Yep, those are
Okay.
mandatory.
Okay.
And part
'Cause
of their
we have
time,
our-
by the way. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All
Mhm.
right. Yeah, we already have our summer schedule planned, and so we'll have to do a little bit of adjusting for that. Can you tell me the times again that they'll be at those?
9 to noon.
9 to noon. Okay, thank you.
And that's the time for the first day too. They'll be with us 9 to noon on that Monday. And then they get with you at 1 o'clock.
And Mark, just also for our schedule here, that is just starting on the second week, or is it starting on the first, the Wednesdays, PDs?
The Wednesday is the second week, yes.
Okay, so that's the first Wednesday and then every other Wednesday after that. Great.
The second Wednesday. Because we meet with them that Monday on the 6th. We don't need to see them 2 days later, right? So yeah.
Got it, thank you.
Mhm.
Mark, I'm thinking about this, Kim, I'm thinking about other organizations for future reference who might want to apply for this. I heard a couple of people say that they only have a volunteer staff. So an organization that applies doesn't necessarily need to have a full-time person to monitor the fellow, is that correct?
No, not a FTE in that sense of a paid employee, but they do need to have somebody who is dedicated to supporting that fellow.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Got it. Excellent. That opens up a lot of organizations, I think, that I may have thought couldn't apply or wasn't appropriate, but that's fantastic.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mark, what about time off? Is there any provision for the, I mean, obviously they won't work the days we aren't working, but is there any other provision for them to have any time off at all during their tenure?
They don't need time off. They're 22 years old. No, so that level of flexibility is up to the host sites, right? But they do need to have a total of 400 hours. Now, how those 400 hours kind of materialize is really up to you. I don't, and we've asked them all not to take a week off, as an example. Like, don't go on vacation during this fellowship. That's not what this is about, right? This is a time to engage, for 10 weeks. If something comes up, they get sick, or they need a Friday mental health day, I'm fine with that, but they need to make up that day at some point, right? Even if it's just working an extra hour for 8 days over the course of the rest of the summer kind of thing, right?
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. We don't want them to have a sense that they can take advantage of you, right?
Right.
Amanda, I see your question in the chat. They will still need to give the final presentation, Pecha Kucha, but they can work beyond that day if necessary. We've had that happen, and so their Pecha Kucha would just be up to that point, and then they might have a few extra days after that, and that's fine. We've had fellows start 2 weeks early. We've had fellows work, a month later, and then they end up getting hired and they stay for 3 years kind of thing, so. Any
One
other
more question.
Yep.
Yeah. So I understand that the fellow gets the $6,350, and we can do that via like a 1099. Is that something that we pay him weekly? Like, do we kind of divvy that out, or is that paid at the very end in a one lump sum? Like, how is that handled?
I leave that up to your discretion. We typically recommend that you pay in a similar way that you pay your staff. So if your staff gets paid biweekly, it makes sense for the fellow to get paid biweekly so they can feel they're part of that team. It would suck for them to be like, yeah, I got my check, and everybody's like, it's not payday. you know what I mean? Those kind of things. And they're like, oh, I'm excited for my first check and you're not sharing this with me kind of thing. But yeah. So if you pay on a certain schedule, it would be great if you can match their pay schedule to that. Any other questions? Cool. We touched on the timeline briefly. Again, it starts June 6th. That's the first Monday in June. It ends August 12th, the second Friday in August. The first day is a half day with us, a half day with you. They get to you at 1. They'll be with us from 9 to noon. And then that second Wednesday, so the very next week, they're with us for their first professional development session, 9 to noon. Then every other Wednesday after that, that Pecha Kucha final presentation normally is from 11:30 to 1 p.m. I'm happy to schedule some time for this group to meet prior to, maybe for a half hour at 11 or a half hour from 1 to 1:30 to debrief if you like. Otherwise, we are there. If we're in person, we'll have lunch provided by the foundation, and the young people will get up and make their presentations. The great thing about Pecha Kucha is that it's only like 6 minutes and 20 seconds. So if it's great, it leaves you wanting more. And if it's not, it's only 6 minutes. You know, we typically have a great time. I'm looking at the chat. Amanda asks, if we add the fellow to our company payroll, do we deduct the costs associated with payroll taxes? No. That $1,000 administrative fee is $1,000 to your organization for all that you have to do to host the fellow. So their payroll taxes will come out of their check, and that's a conversation that you have with them, right? They'll all have to pay taxes on some level or another, whether it's taken out or via a W-2 type strategy or a 1099 strategy. So, I mean, that's something they got to learn too. That was the worst lesson I've ever had to learn. Wait, oh, that's not what I made. I made that number. Right, that's part of the development. Yes, August 12th. I'm sorry, I might have said the wrong date. All right. But yeah, so, and then typically what we do in that first session, all beyond getting to know each other and getting their headshots, is confirm their responsibilities with the blog and needing to be professional, show up on time and be diligent, you know, things that they've already proven or have been proven based on their letters of recommendation, et cetera. And we also schedule the 3 outings that we facilitate for them. Often 1 or 2 sports events, like I said, soccer or baseball, take them to dinner, and we take them out to a concert at the Commons. But we do that based on their interest. So maybe they don't like soccer, they like baseball. Maybe they don't like baseball, they like soccer, or maybe they don't like either of them, and we, you know, get them tickets to do something else. So those are the kind of things we do on that first day. And then, like I said, every other week, starting that next Wednesday, we really do seek to have some nonprofit leaders so they can learn about fundraising, they learn about program development, they learn about all kinds of things. But we have a list and they vote, and then we choose those speakers based on the 5 highest interest kinds of things. If you need to check in the summer, I am your point of contact for that. If there are some technical issues, anyway, you can check in with Becca and I. But when it comes to like payroll and stuff like that, I can't help you because I don't know how your organization does what it does, right? So some of those things might seem like a natural question, and I'm happy to talk through it, but I might not be as helpful as you may think when it comes to things like that. But I'm always happy to kind of talk through some things. We've had issues where we had to kind of reassign a fellow within the organization for any number of reasons, none bad. And that's a conversation that I'm happy to have, you know, just so we're in the loop and can be supportive of your needs and the fellows' development. Yeah, I think that's all that I have on my agenda. I checked everything off. Any last questions?
What happens, Mark, if they have to leave early?
Like on a work day or for the summer?
No, for the summer. Say halfway through the summer, they are offered world's best job and they decide they have to leave. What happens with that?
Well, yeah, that has happened. What we have always figured out is how to kind of maintain some kind of engagement so they can get paid, even if it's on a longer term, right? So maybe we don't get them for the whole summer, but they come 2 hours after work, or if possible on the weekends, right?
Okay.
We ask that in that case, I mean, we don't want to hold back their professional advancement, right, and economic mobility, but we do want them to be accountable to the time that they signed up for. So we can be flexible around that and figure it out for sure. Any other questions? Awesome. I look forward to a fantastic summer, and I'm here to support you in any way that I can. Please just don't hesitate to reach out for anything that you think we can help with. All right.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you all. Good to see you.
Thank you.